How come most startups fail, even when we have more tactics and strategies than ever before? Join the bedside chat of an entrepreneurial couple as they share what it takes to create a business with ease and in flow.
Welcome back to another Biz and Flow bedside chat. I'm Natasha Koo.
I'm Jachym.
Whoa, that vibrato. And that baritone voice. So, how was your day, Jachym?
Oh, it was very filled with different things.
All right.
Well, I thought what we can talk about today is what I spent one part of my day doing, which was actually stepping back from the business and looking at it in more of a systematic way. And this is something that is obvious probably to lots of people who have been in corporate, yet it hasn't been obvious to me, even though I've read it in books. And that is that business is really a system.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a whole bunch of different systems that work together. And to think about those systems, you have to pause and you have to take the time to draw them out.
Right, because each system or each part through the machine has its own function.
Exactly. And you need to kind of have an overview. So for Biz and Flow, there's a general overview, which I think is valid for every business. We have taken it from Traction, the book. I can recommend that book. And you have an overview of, you have the vision. Now, this is my version. I kind of slightly adjusted it. You have the vision, which is your overarching vision of what you want to create in the world. You have, for me, the vision of Biz and Flow, the big mission of Biz and Flow that helps me manifest the vision I want to see in the world. And then from there, you have kind of the 10-year target, where what would you like to do within 10 years, a big, hairy, audacious goal. And from there, you break it further down to a 3-year picture, to a 1-year goal, and then to 90 days. And from the 90 days, of course, you can then create weekly goals, daily action tasks that are all aligned to bring into fruition the whole vision, right? And that kind of got me thinking. I haven't actually finished the book of Traction yet. It got me thinking about, well, how do I know we are on track? Well, we need to collect certain data, because your actions create results, and those results give you feedback on whether you're on track or not, whether you need to adjust, whether you need to think about what you're doing, or whether you're like, no, this is actually great and I'm going to keep doing it. I'm going to, make it a bit more efficient, but overall I'm in a good kind of direction. And that then boils down to what I was sharing at the beginning, is that you start then writing down the different systems, right? So for Biz and Flow, we have the podcast, right? That is one system where we are reaching an audience. And how does this system work, right? There's the kind of workflow of
the procedures.
Yeah, the procedures of us recording this podcast. And after we record this podcast, we write down some notes, create a title. Then at some point I'm going to edit it, I'm going to upload it, and we're going to make sure everything's all right. I'm going to schedule it, and then we're going to release it. So that is kind of the procedure for that. Now there's also as well something that we haven't discussed yet, which is is this system working for then attracting the clients to further engage with us, right? And so that's what I'm talking about, is that you have to step back and you have to start writing out the actions that you're taking anyways, right? So if you're, for example, in real estate, what are the actions that you're taking? And those actions are systems. You're working certain systems. So if you're cold calling, that is a system. You're cold calling, the conversation that it unfolds can have a certain flow. There's certain different directions that it can go in. And just drawing it out in a more systematical way can help you to spot weaknesses, those spots where you're like, right, I don't actually know what to do when the conversation goes down that route. And think about that, or ask someone else about, who is in the business, how they handle it. But it really helps you to pinpoint what's going on, to adjust it, and just to get it out of your head.
Mm-hmm. What comes to mind with everything you shared is that not every single system or piece of the engine or the machine is something that we're comfortable with.
Mm-hmm.
For example, for us, accounting, bookkeeping, we'll do the best practice. So, we know some concepts from Profit First,
mm-hmm.
the book. There are some really good practices that we can do, but it might not be our forte. So on some level, we can still just get to know what the best practices are, at least become knowledgeable and not completely ignorant to this topic, and then see what we can do, the best that we can.
Yeah.
Maybe eventually that means that, we don't want to be sloppy with the finances, and that we actually want someone else to actually do the bookkeeping and things like that. But that doesn't mean that just because we don't understand everything or know how to do the nitty-gritty bits of this particular, for example, accounting, doesn't mean that we won't know how to feel the pulse within the business for that particular aspect. So we can still educate ourselves to the point where we understand, okay, should we review our finances once a week? At the beginning of the week, we can actually tell, okay, did we make any sales? Where did the sales come from? How much were our expenses?
Mm-hmm.
What was that about, right? We can still have a pulse on it without understanding every single thing that's going on within one particular aspect of the business.
Absolutely. And one really important part of doing this whole thing is that you actually have to think about what are the different systems, right? So you hear, the word accounting, but when you actually start drawing it out and you're like, you're right, there's a certain inflow and there's a certain outflow, and you want to know about that, then suddenly the system is much more clear to you, and you can then look at the different education material that's necessary, because whatever there is in a business, it most likely has been written about. There's different kinds of systems, different kinds of strategies that you can work that specific system. You can make yourself knowledgeable. But if you're not aware of what the system is in the first place, right, because you haven't actually taken the time to crystallize what the different systems are that your business is built on, then of course you can't actually go and take the specific learnings that are necessary to bring you forward in that area.
Mm-hmm. Now, I really enjoy how we're reading the book Traction, because it points out almost every single part of the business that is very necessary, that you should have in an organized way, have your pulse, have your finger on to test the pulse, right? To know what's going on. Now, that's a very special book in that it covers a lot of aspects of business and many components of it, while going into enough depth so that you can actually apply it in practical terms, right? So you can actually use the tools there to create a really well-oiled machine, and we all want that. We want our business to be a well-oiled machine. Now, for us, we have looked into business or startups, and for some time now, haven't we? We've read a great deal of books. I gotta say that quite a bit of it has been focused on marketing, right? But I just want to point out something here, because if you're trying to perfect every single system or every single component of your business, and you're a solopreneur, that's a terrible idea. Because there's going to be an expert. If you Google every single thing, there's going to be an expert on everything. So you talked about, a vision, right? Well, yes, we're working with a branding guy. Yeah. Really, really bright and in tune guy who's just a cultural fit. It's just perfect for our work, right? For Business Flow. But just from that branding work, we're actually going to cover vision. We're going to cover branding. We're going to cover also
core values.
Also, it's going to help us to create the 1-year goal to, I imagine, and also get clear on what we're servicing, both target audience and also the problems that we are actually here to solve. So it's real.
So some of it, I don't know how much we will have that, like the 1-year goal and all of that, but in general, it really goes down to the essence, like your core values, your vision, and all of that.
It's a foundation
It
which
really
will
is,
help us answer many, many of these questions. Now, what I'm trying to say here is not. What I'm not saying is that, don't hire a designer or don't hire an expert on SEO. Or I'm not telling you to not hire experts in a particular field. Like, that's not something wrong in that. But what I'm saying is that if you're a perfectionist and you want to do every single component and every single piece and system in your business correctly, then you need to invest an infinite amount of money to do it all perfectly.
Well, or a significant amount of money at least.
Yeah, I mean...
It's probably not going to be infinite.
Well, okay. No, but what I'm saying is if you want to perfect every single thing, So, because even just looking at, the 1-year goal or the 3-month goal or quarterly goals and things like that, there's literally a guy who's like, I think he's in like 6-figure now, because he runs a membership solely to help you set, what's it called? 90, I think, I'm talking about Todd, for those of you Todd Harriman, for those of you who actually know him. He runs this 90-day year program. All he does is really help people set those 90-day goals, help them make sure it's on point, how to track it, how to prioritize it, and execute. He's built a 6-figure business from just focusing on one specific tiny aspect of your business. Yep. So if you want to, I just want to throw this example out because if you take our advice literally, you might be like, oh my goodness, I need to get everything right. No, you don't.
Oh yeah, no, that I didn't want to make that impression. It was more just having the awareness of it.
Absolutely, but I wanted to point out the flip side of if you go too far and you think that you have to do everything right, and you gotta dig out every single procedure and system within your business, you'll find yourself investing in like 90-day year and then another thing and another thing. So just make sure you do the due diligence. Get acquainted with everything that's actually within your business. Do what's relevant, but also have this overview. Don't, pick all the tiny pieces and try to become an expert in every single system.
No, you can't. You can't become an expert in every single system. You're going to be 90 by the time you're an expert of all the systems. However, you need to be aware of all the systems that are working within your business, and you need to have a complete overview of them. But that takes your brain and a pen and a paper. That's pretty much it, because you can sit down, you can analyze, and if you're not great at doing this kind of stuff, you can ask someone, a friend of yours or whoever, who has a better analytical kind of brain, and go through them with that task of looking at the different systems. But you need to know those systems so you can then start pinpointing, and you can look at, right, I can improve that. And by the way, when I say improve, I'm not talking about perfection. For me, it's always one thing, like, if you've been following us from the beginning, you've gone to our website. Our website looks shit. It didn't look great. And now Natasha is going back, she's making it better. But for me, that doesn't matter. What's much, much more important is that we start putting stuff out. We are out there, and we improve on the way. We adjust on the way. So you're aware of the different systems. You start to improve certain systems. Then you leave it, and you come back again. You're like, right, now it's time to make it even better. Maybe now it's time to employ someone because your revenue has grown this much, and this becomes now much, much more important than before. Whatever it is, but be aware of that.
I think what you're actually pointing towards here is to create an umbrella system, right? So
depends on what you mean by umbrella system.
Umbrella means you actually have a name tag, you have different compartments. It's like you have a drawer, you have a closet, and you're putting in your drawers, you're putting in your doors, so you know that, okay, this big closet is made of different compartments.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that doesn't mean that right away, and this is why I want to warn you, because I know that the majority of the listeners are solopreneurs starting out and quite in the beginning stage. That doesn't mean you have to cram every bit of junk that you can find into the drawers or into the the doors, so that you feel like I've done something that's filled this with something.
Mm-hmm.
It's important to get the overview, so you have the whole umbrella, and then each compartment is its own umbrella, and then when it's time, when you're ready, when you're there, right? When you have the resources, you begin to fill it.
Mm-hmm.
You begin to, it's like a fill at your own rate kind of thing.
I mean, new things might come to it as well, but you're taking action now. What I'm talking about is basically just play detective on yourself. What are the things that you're doing? Because, for example, me, I'm going on Instagram and I'm commenting on posts, right? So that is a tiny system, right? That's the Instagram system. Now you're also going on Instagram and you're doing other things, so that's a different kind of system. And you write just those kind of systems out, and they might become more complex or more sophisticated as you go along, but you are aware that's there. It's like, imagine you have a car, right? And you keep building on that car.
Yeah.
You need to be aware of all the different systems that run the car. You need to know that there's an engine, you need to know that there's a steering wheel, you need to know that there's wheels at the bottoms that's driving the car. You need to know all different kinds of systems, that they are there, right? Don't need to be an expert of those systems, but you need to know that they are there, because what happens is you might run into trouble, right? The car isn't working as much anymore because it's growing faster and growing bigger. And how are you going to figure out what's going on if you don't have the different systems, the awareness of the different systems, plus the data from the different systems? Then you can look at it. That's where we're saying you feel the pulse of the business. You have the awareness of how the business is functioning. You can go and see, and you're like, right, I think that system here is outdated. That was built for when we were only making 100K or $1 million or whatever it is, right? But now with the customer flow that we have, this system doesn't work and it's a bottleneck, and that's why it's a problem.
Mm-hmm. Now, I can imagine, even if you're a seasoned entrepreneur or you've been doing this for a while now, but you're like, okay, I just do what I feel or know works, and I haven't really put anything down in paper, or I haven't documented any of these things, nor do I have a clue what's actually getting me the most results in a very objective way. It's all subjective because you're just doing it, right? So I can imagine, whether it's a seasoned entrepreneur or someone new, by putting things in such a crystal clear and organized kind of way, and also a bird's eye view type of way, it requires a level of, I don't want to call it transparency, but you're actually looking at the reality of your business. You're looking at, for example, the metaphor I had, like where you have all these compartments in your closet. For some things, you know that you should be doing it soon, or maybe it should be on your list to do, but you open the closet, there's nothing inside because you're not actually putting any work in. There are no results, or there's no data because you haven't done anything to even get any data. Now, that's a reality check, isn't it? Or then maybe there's another compartment, and maybe it's just like, well, I've been commenting on Facebook groups. Maybe it hasn't brought you any clients, but you spend half the day doing that because it feels comfortable. Now, that's like, it could be a slap in the face, going, oh my goodness, that's where I've been spending my time. So I think that, at least at the beginning of my very own business for Feminine Space, I was really hesitant to track these things because I was like, oh, those are just the numbers. I'm such a heartfelt coach, and I don't need to do that. I just need to follow what feels right. But sure, maybe that worked for me for a while, but maybe what I was hiding from, maybe what some of the listeners are really afraid of, is to actually see the current situation. Because by saying that we're going to get a pulse on your business, and not just on your business, we're talking about every single system, every single strategy, every single tactic that you have going on. That means, testing the pulse. That means if you're sick, if something is weak, there's no hiding. So then when you actually notice, okay, something's not working, now you have the responsibility now to actually deal with that, right?
Absolutely.
As a solopreneur, it's you gotta now fix it. So I can see how sometimes this could actually be kind of a scary topic to start, because in life, I'm going to bring this topic a bit further away from business. In life, there are things that might not be so healthy, things we avoid, things that we know we could do better, but we don't put it down on paper in this way. Mm-hmm. Now, in business, we could track it, we can organize it, we can put, our overarching umbrellas and see what's actually inside each drawer, each closet, right? And then we know objectively what's going on, and that could be an uncomfortable process.
Absolutely, and I mean, I have for the longest time avoided to do any of that with my previous coaching. It was for me, it was like, what systems, man? I'm just going out having conversations and all of that, and that's fine. You can do it this way, but for Biz in Flow, at least for me, it's very clear that we are building a proper business in the sense of, yes, there is all those different systems that can be systemized, optimized, and that can be scalable. And in order to learn and to grow, you have to know what's going on. Because imagine that you're learning French, and no one is ever correcting your French, right? So you have a absolutely horrible pronunciation. You're making all those mistakes, and you feel like, oh yes, I'm so nice, and it just makes me feel so nice. And then you go to France and you're like, holy shit, I can't understand anything they're saying. They can't understand me because the French I'm speaking, no one is speaking out there. It doesn't get you anywhere. And if you are like us, you want to do good in the world. And in order to do good in the world, the business has to support itself. And in order to support itself, you have to speak the language of the business so you know where it's at. So you have to learn French, which in this case is numbers.
Yeah. And they're not going to lie. They're not going to lie.
They're not going to lie, but they also keep in mind their approximations. Like numbers, for example, you have 1,000 followers on Instagram. What does that actually tell you? Or you have 1,000 likes, or
open to interpretation.
Yeah, so that's a whole other thing where you're like, okay, I have all those numbers, but what do they actually tell me? Mm-hmm. Because in the end, what you're interested in is the revenue that you can generate and the people's lives that you can touch.
Yeah. What a topic. So Good luck to us for writing down all our little compartments and then slowly filling it in, populating it, and keeping a close connection to the pulse of our business and different bits and pieces of it. And I'm sure that in the upcoming episodes, you'll definitely hear us share, our reflections when we have this going on, when we get organized and as we take more action and we get more data and feedback in, we'll probably be able to share with you in a clearer way, right? Probably in a pretty interesting way, what works, what doesn't, and how we deal with that.
Mm. And just to be clear, like I've heard this before about systems and doing all this stuff that we have shared here in different books, and I've never done it. And today when I started doing it, it was like a revelation, and I was like, oh my god, it's like a machine.
It actually helps.
There's actually all those little systems, and it's really useful to actually do all of that stuff. So if you have been avoiding it for a long time, I can really recommend to do it, because for me it was a huge kind of aha moment where I was like, shit, actually I can be really in control in the sense of I can feel what's going on, and I can start steering this machine, this ship into a direction that's good for us and the world.
Absolutely. It's like having an actual navigation system or a compass, or the meter in your car. If you're driving, if you're in an airplane, let's hope that they have a compass. Let's hope that it shows the speed. I'm terrible. I'm not into cars or anything like that. But, there's all the different little meters on the machines, right? So let's hope that it's there. Because if you don't have that and you don't have your eye on that, would you go into an airplane? Would you go into a car? Would you go into a train or a tram without one? right? We're kind of driving blind. That's not very safe. And the same goes for your business. You kind of want to have those meters, and you don't want to keep a blind eye on them, because that could lead to disaster, and you won't even know why you're in the middle of a disaster, right? So I hope that this episode has really helped you open your eyes up, perhaps even open yourself up to this idea of becoming more organized, seeing your business as a machine, as a system that actually works for you, and how you are in control to see where it's going well, what's going on, and how you can actually react to it in the most objective and productive way possible. And I know that in this episode we also described to you how, yes, it can be an emotional process. It can come from a place of, I want to avoid this because I think I'm doing just fine. Now, if you think that, this is difficult for you, or maybe this conversation has triggered you to think about a certain part of your business or even your life that you're like, oh yeah, totally avoiding it, should be taking a look at that, I should be, having my pulse there, I should be doing something, but I'm just not, then please just have a conversation with us. We really want to help you, because, driving our cars with what do you call those you sleep with? The eye masks, or, hopping onto an airplane where you're just resisting the meters and trying not to have any on the airplane, that doesn't help. So I hope that if you need any help at all, just have a free conversation with us, and you can find the link to schedule a call at bizinflow.com. So we hope to hear from you, and we hope to be able to help you.
Good night.
Oh, Jachym, just let me finish. Good night, everyone, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.
Good night.